Welcome, people. There is a mystery guest today, and I have said in many places that people needed to be here for this mystery guest. So if you're here now, you're very lucky. I will be right back. Welcome to KillCo Whiskey Musings. My name is Brian, and today it's a very special day. I always love having mystery guests on. I hope all of you will enjoy the company of me and whoever this mystery person is. The suspense. I know. Mystery guest, are you ready? All right. Here we have our mystery guest of the day.
Hello, sir. Hello, Brian.
Hello. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Nice to be here. It's nice to be a guest for a change.
Right? I like being guest. You don't have to do much. Just sit there and chit chat a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. I'm comfortable tonight. It's late here. It's 11 p.m., but I'm in good shape. Had a micro nap after dinner tonight, so I'm strong. I hope you're well. Can I compliment you on your attire?
Yes, I thought it was appropriate, and I had the glass as well, although it feels really weird putting anything but scotch in the glass.
Fantastic.
I already have. It's done. I've done that.
Fantastic. Before. What's in your glass?
We have Eagle Rare right now.
Well, you would think we'd synchronize such a thing.
Yes, it's almost like it was planned.
Yes. I have to say, look at this. There's only a wee dribble left of my Eagle Rare. This was a gift to the community. So many of my bottles are. I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
Really subtle placement of the age statement on the back here in very small writing.
Is it?
But I think there's maybe half a dram left in there.
Maybe we can finish it off. Maybe not. I know sometimes with me, I try to not drink too much before bed just because it does something. Like if there's alcohol in my system still when I'm getting ready for bed, I'm not always great. I've learned that over the years anyway.
Yeah, I think not too much alcohol is the thing, and I think you get good at it the older you get. I hope that's the case.
You would hope so.
Certainly, I don't enjoy having too much alcohol these days. You're not tasting what all alcohol's about flavor for me now, and if you're not tasting it, it's almost kind of like, there isn't as much fun in it. Even when I'm in social situations, I still enjoy being distracted by what's in the glass.
Yes.
I like drinking something that really makes you think about it. Yes, absolutely.
That's what I've liked about, well, not that I can go to bars occasionally, where I will have a glass, and sometimes I'll chat with the bartender. One of the little things I try to do is ask them their name. Talking to people in general is difficult, but that's something I'm trying to get accustomed to. I've done it before. And it just starts a conversation.
Yes, nice. Absolutely.
Rather than just sitting there and be like, drinking. That's it.
Yeah. Let's raise a wee glass and cheers to say Slancha and belated many happy returns. I missed your birthday, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate it.
Some familiar names in the chat already.
I noticed.
So it's going to be hard for me not to think I'm on the VPub.
You're just going to ready. You're like, where's the thing? I got to click on the name. Wait, what? Oh no, that's right. Wrong place.
Yeah. I've been tidying up here today. This is the last broadcast, by the way, that will be from this table, from this room. Well, the table will be the same, but I'm moving rooms over summer, so this is the last time I think I'll be going live from this corner.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hopefully, it'll look the same when I move to the other place. Yeah. But yeah, it feels. I didn't put a shirt on or anything tonight. I wanted to feel and remind myself that I'm a guest. I'm not hosting something. Yes,
I got you covered.
I'll let you lead the discussion, Brian. It's difficult for me to do.
You see something pop up. I still have trouble clicking on everything. It moves so fast occasionally.
Yes, it can.
Hello to all of you who are here. I normally say hi to everyone coming in, but this is one of those weird times where there are more people here than I'm used to. I'm used to kind of a trickle-in sort of thing, and today we started live. Like 10 people are here already. Ooh, it's okay, no pressure. I know why they're here. It's fine.
Wonderful.
Oh God, no! Please, no. Roy, I hope you didn't make a quiz.
Is there a quiz tonight? As a sugar kitty. Wait, we can make a quiz. But Brian, I don't think Brian stays around in the V-pubs for the quizzes.
I don't. Sometimes I do, and some just kind of what do we call it? It's the same. I told you earlier. I mentioned it anyway. How I have this kind of negative talk in the back of my mind all the time, but it's that little thing. It's like I'm reminded of school and all these situations where I was stressed out and I wasn't sure if I was getting the right answers because I'm not great at school. But occasionally I try it, and occasionally I do all right. I do better than I expect.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's always optional. You know, nobody's, everybody's learning. Everybody's on a path of learning in whiskey or any subject. And I think the reason for the quiz isn't to kind of sort the knowledgeable from the not so knowledgeable. It's just to have some fun and try and spread a wee bit of knowledge, because most of the questions should be something that's curious, right? Something that's interesting, and not just kind of, it's not like a test, it's not like an exam. Sometimes we manage that and sometimes we don't. But I'm glad that you give it a go. Remember, I mean, you don't have to share the I think I have caught you sharing your score. I think when you've got a score to celebrate, you do.
When I'm doing well, it's like, oh, surprise.
Which I think is normal, right? I think it's normal. And if you're not doing so well, you'll just kind of quietly exit stage left.
I don't know if this is a bad thing to say, but I've heard the term an Irish farewell or an Irish goodbye, and where someone just leaves. They don't say anything, they're just gone. It's been told to me. Someone said that to me. It's like, you do this thing all the time. Like, I didn't know there was a phrase for it. I guess I do.
Yeah, I've never heard that phrase before.
I didn't either. I didn't know what it meant for a while, and someone told me I do that. I went, oh. Yeah. I looked it up, and part of me is like, "This is a good thing or a bad thing?" I have Irish heritage; it's fine. I can say that. No worries.
Yeah, I mean, it's not saying it to offend anyone. I mean, the good thing about these streams and the people that are here hanging out with us now, if they're busy, if they get distracted, if they have to go off to bed or do other things, then they can do that. That's exactly the beauty of it. They can come back and watch it and catch up later, or they can not. It's the kind of opt in, opt out without any kind of formalities is quite fun. I think quite freeing.
Yeah, and I know in my case, most of the time I'm there to. It's the same thing that we've been doing. A lot of us have been doing over the past year. It's engaging with people, but in a way that I'm comfortable with, since I'm not always great with crowds and noise and such. This gave me a whole other option. And I know a lot of people didn't really do it. You know, it's been an option for quite a few years, but suddenly it became the only option for almost everyone. And now it's kind of getting interwoven into the general feeling in society, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot more people have become comfortable in front of camera, whether it's you know FaceTime or Zoom or whatever it may be. It's people are just a wee bit more chilled out about it. Not everyone, not all the time. It's going to be interesting to see how the world readjusts and adapts to some kind of new normal, whatever shape that is, over the course of the next year. JJ is very typical, I think, of people that probably watch both of us, Brian, and that lots of people just kind of sit in the background and don't really involve themselves in the chat. And I think that I'm guilty of that, I have to say. And I'm also, you know, I find it still to this day difficult to concentrate on engaging in the chat and listening to whatever's being said live. You do get better at it the more you do it and the more you practice, I think. But it's not an easy thing to do. So I understand, JJ, completely why you would. Richie Z is your admin. What a lovely guy. What a great guy. Good to see you, Richie.
He's pretty much in every single stream I watch. He's always there, and it's wonderful. It's always nice to have a familiar person there. It's like, oh, hey, what's up?
Yes.
That kind of engagement, that kind of familiarity, and, you know, something you get used to after a while without him realizing it. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm getting trouble from Matthew at Whiskey Games. I was on his website earlier today and I bought myself a set of his handmade dominoes. I've been threatening to buy them for a while, but they've been out of stock for a long, long time. and they're back in stock. I have to say, I think Matthew, I think you're underselling them. You know dominoes, right? You know, a set of gaming dominoes.
Yeah.
These are made out of whiskey staves.
Whoa.
So they're made out of solid used whiskey oak. I mean, I've never touched them or held them in my hands yet, but there's some on their way to me now. And he sells them for £30, which is $40. Handmade. So
that's pretty cheap for a handmade object.
Yeah, I think he's doing it for fun right now, I think. But I'm looking forward to get my hands on them, Matthew. And yes, I'm supposed to be on holiday, but I am on holiday. This is not work. This is just fun hanging out and having a dram.
Yeah, and I tell this is work for me technically, but it's also not. That's kind of the thing I found in my own life. It's I couldn't do I could do a normal job. There would be a cost to my mental well-being and my physical health in the long run. So I haven't been able to work for about 10 years. And then, a few years ago, I started doing this, got into this kind of environment and the people, and started watching streams, and generally started to realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm doing this just for myself. Why don't I just do it for others as well? And that was kind of a tipping point where it's like, well, I can do this from home. So why not just go with it? Because I enjoy doing it rather than it being or feeling like a job, which is something I have an interest in.
And have you felt a benefit to your health through doing this? Because I've been doing it for 4 years now, and I still get butterflies before I go live. I still get nervous. I still get stressed about topics and guests and things. So I guess how does it help you? Do you find that it does?
It kind of focuses the nervous energy or the discomfort or the anxiety has somewhere to go rather than just kind of sitting and just staying. That's kind of the feeling I get when I go to restaurants and public places with a lot of noise. The extremes are baseball games and giant people everywhere kind of environments.
So what a lot of people would see or label as irrational anxieties and things, suddenly you've got a place to channel those to, because there is something to be genuinely excited about, right?
I'm fine. It's here. Everything's fine. Everything's working just fine. Nothing's going wrong. It's the same thing with. I realized it because I used to do theater. Like for whatever reason, I am uncomfortable and just, I don't want to say twitchy, but tense, stress, and that kind of thing in regular environments, like being around people. That's just a thing out there. But if you put me on stage where I'm in front of a whole bunch of people I don't know, it's different because it's already planned out. So like in theater, you have to know all your lines. You have to know where you have to stand. Everything is set. Something can still go wrong, but for the most part, it's already something I know what's going to happen for the most part. And you can't see the audience really. And you kind of feed off that positivity and the applause, the enjoyment they're getting from it. So I'm trying to get that here too, sort of.
Yeah. I mean, we all, I guess we all will wear armor to a certain extent, right? We all kind of have our arenas of discomfort, I guess, but I suppose it's just at different degrees of severity for different people.
I like to tell people, well, if you've experienced this past year, you have a general idea what it feels like.
Yeah.
Just because of the whole situation that was going on, going out, being around people, all of it was a feeling that everyone got to experience. I wish they didn't have to, but now they're at least a little more aware of it. Yeah.
There is talk about normalcy anxiety and things, people having to readapt and readjust to whatever their new life is going to look like going forward. And I had someone come to the house tonight, and it was a very strange thing because that's not happened for a long, long time. But it was a very positive thing. They were bringing whiskey samples so that I could. There's talk about a bottling and a bottling based around the channel, a community bottling, and it was samples to try for that. But it was awkward when he arrived at the door. Did we shake hands? It was nice to see him, and it's because I'm happy to shake hands, and there isn't a problem shaking hands. We're not going to catch COVID through handshakes. We're both vaccinated. We're not going to get it through shaking hands. But I don't know if that's his opinion. I don't know if he feels that. So it was kind of like a fist bump at the door. Come in, please, and all the windows are open for ventilation, and he's asking, do you need me to wear a mask and things? And Yeah, it's all jarring. I think it's jarring.
I started doing something. I think it was actually when I met Rex and Daniel when they came here. I don't know if you know that story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I know they flew up there to film a retail store video or something, right?
Yes, Irene Tan. She was
Yeah,
opening a
that's it.
store of her own in Connecticut, and they landed in Rhode Island, which was, I mean, it's the same feeling I got today when their video for today was a Nulu pick, Nulu barrel pick, and I just happened to have the It's Bourbon Night Nulu barrel pick, and I did a video of that for today. So they both landed on the same day. It's that sort of feeling where like, how the hell? What are the odds? And that was the feeling of them traveling to an island. It's like these guys in Texas, how what bleh. It was that kind of feeling. And thankfully, I got to go to Irene Tan's event, meet them, have wonderful whiskey. I was very happy to meet them in that kind of environment where it was still a good amount of people, but they're all interested in the whiskey. There was some chat about it. It was comfortable. It was kind of a weird thing to say, but soft. It wasn't really a stressful environment. Everyone was just having a good time.
Yeah.
And I got to meet them in circumstances where they were not the exact focus of attention. They were there filming and doing stuff with Irene, but people weren't, coming at them all the time.
Yeah. Got you.
Which I think they could appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. I there is a surreal thing about this video thing that when you meet people that you've been watching on video for a long, long time, there is a sense of familiarity that I find very comforting. And that's been true for everyone without exception. The Daniel, Rex, all the folk that I met when I was in Texas, anyone I've met coming here to Scotland, or anyone that I've met at any of the events that I've been able to travel to, there's that kind of feeling of meeting. I mean, I'm sure if you and I met in real life, it wouldn't feel like it's the first time we're meeting.
No, I've known you for a couple of years now, at least.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I've had to do that with other people who have come on the channel. I didn't do it this time because I know we talked a while ago.
Yes.
In the same situation, but when it was other people, I would do the same thing. I'd have them come on a little earlier just so I could have that moment of, hello, it's nice to meet you digitally, screen to screen like this, even though I've talked to all those channels and all those people in other ways for years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels weird, but it feels like something I have to do first. I don't know why.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it shouldn't make sense because it's a new phenomenon, right? It's something that's it's just due to technology in recent times, but it makes it, well, certainly to me at least, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Sugar Kitty's in as well. Good to see Sugar Kitty. Mike Meyer, Christopher Malloy down in New York. Fantastic, Christopher. Good to have you in.
So many names.
Superb. Bourbon Baller. Now there's a name.
Right?
Bourbon Baller.
There's quite a few interesting names that come through here. And on other streams as well. There's like an offshoot of different type of whiskey tube streamers now. There are some who do mostly content, sometimes live streams. There are ones who do mostly just content. And there are some who do almost always just live streams. And there's even, it's not a new phenomenon, but it's been where people use StreamYard and invite not only other YouTube streamers, but also people in the chat to come on and just chit chat for a while.
Yeah.
It's becoming a thing.
I think it quite quickly hits the limit, doesn't it, in StreamYard? I think it used to, I don't know what the limit is now. It used to be 9 or something.
I think it's 10 or maybe 9.
10 people. So not so many yet. It's not like Zoom where you can.
I've seen Zoom. Zoom is terrifying.
Not Cal. I think we were in touch very, very recently. I think that's a Callum. I'm not sure. I think it's the same person.
Raise our hats back.
Yeah. Do you ever? I mean, it's because it's tricky because some people have multiple different aliases and things in this environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes hard to keep up and remember who's who.
Yes.
So I don't know how you find that. but people have just had to get used to the fact that I make mistakes very, very regularly recently. Christopher Malloy is sipping my whiskey of the year.
Oh,
that's what we should have done, Brian. We should have exchanged some samples, I guess. Well, if we do this again, that's what we could maybe do.
Yeah, it's going to be an option for anyone who wants to be on the other whiskey tubers who want to be on the stream. I just invite them, and the key thing I tell them is you have to want to be here genuinely. I don't want you to come here just because I asked you. I told you about it, and you're like, oh yes, I definitely want to do that. That'd be fun. I don't want it to be I don't want to say a pity thing, but that's how it feels sometimes.
Getting to hang out and the reason to hang out drinking whiskey, it sounds pretty good to me, right?
Yeah, I like to tell people I'm giving you an excuse to drink early because I know Mash and Drum, I think, is going live later tonight. I forget which time, but I know he goes on tonight.
Yeah, he goes live on a Wednesday, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Jason was supposed to join us last week. I don't know if his samples have arrived since.
I
really hope they have. But and I guess it touches on that. You know, we could have shared samples, but sometimes the meal network is not always going to be able to allow us to get samples from across the Atlantic. Let's say.
Yeah, that's where it gets tricky. It's happened. I know I have a few samples that you sent. One is one I had on my birthday, which I think I mentioned to you, the North Star Spica 40 year.
Oh, was it me that sent you that?
The 300 patron celebration split.
Oh, fantastic. And I
can't remember where the other one went.
You had a wee sip of that. Good.
Yeah. Oh, God, it was so good.
Good. You did say I remember.
That's why I only drank half of it, because I wanted to save the rest for later. And my brain's like, well, later, what's that going to be?
Well, despite it being 40 years old, it's not malt, it's a blend. So it's quite light. I remember quite a light spice there.
Yeah, it's fruity too.
Yeah, but I found that if you left it in a glass for a wee while, as you should always do with a delicate old timer like a 40-year-old whiskey, right? Leave it in a glass for a little while and just enjoy it sip by gentle sip. Because it's a privilege when you consider anything to be that age that we can relax and enjoy it and consider perhaps what we were doing. And I know it's difficult for you to remember what you were doing when that whiskey was made, but I have memories of 40 years ago. I have a rough idea where I was living and what I was getting up to when that whiskey was made, and that's stunning to consider.
Yes, that's the feeling I get with some of these. Is when I also have where'd it go? I have about 40 something odd samples sitting in front of me, so it's a little weird when it's like, where's that sample? Oh God, why? Where is it? A lovely problem to have, I might add.
Absolutely. I recently organized my samples and managed to get them all laid out into some kind of lesser chaos. But I think it's tough to get through because if we certainly for the content that I'm providing, it's important that I have a handle on what whiskies are and how they're holding up, and maybe not to review them in anger, so to speak, but be able to taste them in context and see how they perform against their peers, etc., etc. So it's already difficult when you've got all the other tastings, whether it's a whiskey club or other structured tastings or whatever that are on. It's already difficult to get to that point where you can sit down and get through your sample collection. Yeah. And as time goes on and the connections that you make, it's absolutely natural that you want to exchange samples and exchange that sense of excitement as you discover whiskies you're enjoying. So it only gets worse as time goes on.
I've started to get to that point where I'm looking behind me. I mean, this is most of what people see, but I had to actually add all this behind me because there was no more room. They were all on the floor. Some of them were on the floor. So I had to put something behind me. This thing, just a plastic knockoff kind of piece of thing, but it holds it, so it works.
Yeah.
Oh, and the whiskey I was talking about was the 1983 Milton Duff Space Size Single, 31 years old. That's another one where it's like, well, I was 9.
Yeah.
It was 3 when it was put in a barrel. So,
yeah. It's incredible. Yeah. And not only can it be safe to drink, but delicious to drink.
Yeah, I'm very curious about it.
Yeah. The Mash and Drums first stream tonight. What does that mean? They're first? Are they doing 2 today? Maybe.
I don't know. I know. What was mentioned earlier here? Like I think Whiskey Mountain's going to be on there, but something happened, so she had to cancel.
Okay.
But he's going to be with Distiller Peerless at 7 or 8, 7, 8. I have no idea.
Al is saying that he's also got a sample of the 40-year-old Spica, oldest whiskey I've ever had. I spent 3 hours smelling and tasting it. Absolutely superb. Yeah, and I think so much of it, Al, is about the ceremony of something that you know is fairly precious. That was an expensive bottle of whiskey, but it's probably one of the cheapest 40-year-old anythings that you can buy. I think it was £120 from memory. But I bought it purely with that celebration in mind. That was what it was for. And I kept, I think, one sample for myself, and every other drop from that bottle went out to people like yourself, Brian, to say thank you. Say thank you.
Yeah, it was quite an experience. It's nice that I can go back to the video of that day, and I spent at least 45 minutes just with this with this sample, because it was so, I got lost in it kind of for a while, and it was wonderful. Yeah, and I wish it would never go away, but it's gonna eventually.
Most 40-year-old bottles, you can add a 0 to the end of the cost. Oh yeah, Sugar Kitty, absolutely. I think that unfortunately for most mortals, treats like that, probably the ship has sailed, unfortunately. There are other drinks out there, I guess, that can reach a similar age at more affordable price points. But if whiskey's your jam, it's going to be tough. You're going to have somebody generous who's willing to share these precious things. I mean, it's going to be harder and harder, I think, for people to drink something that's older than them, for example. Yeah. Whereas 15 years ago, not least because I was 15 years younger, of course, but everything was a lot more affordable. It's incredible what's happening to prices, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing up. I don't want to make our stream tonight a negative thing, but it is unfortunate because I think as the prices are driven up, it means that less is getting opened and enjoyed.
I had a word for that. I found it by accident. Commodity fetishism.
Oh yeah, watches.
We just have to have it. They put so much value on a thing, and like delete the whole purpose of the thing. With whiskeys in particular, where it's like you're supposed to drink it. That was the whole idea. Instead, it just sits in a bottle in someone's collection forever.
And humans being humans, it encourages that kind of pendulum swing back to the people who are kind of really quite extreme about open. So it's kind of nice to find somewhere in the middle where, you know what, why don't you buy all the bottles with the view to opening them? But, you know, you don't need to feel, you don't want, sometimes if I'm not careful, these sealed bottles, in this room, most of the bottles are sealed. And in the other room next door, which is why I'm moving over summer to try and get all the whiskies into the same space, they're open and drinking. And sometimes I get an anxiety because you start to realize that not only you're not getting through the open bottles, but you're going to struggle to open the sealed ones too. Mm-hmm. And then you just chill out and realize what a wonderful problem to have. Mm-hmm. You know, you're privileged to have that choice there. So relax with it. It's okay. All the bottles will have their moment. Tonight, because of my visitor, I was able to open a bottle, a nice bottle, because I knew that he would appreciate it, and there was a sample swap to have, and so there's a nice liberating feeling sometimes to just, yes, now's the moment to open this quite nice bottle.
I've been doing that with a friend of mine. Not exactly the same idea, but he's never been big into whiskey. He had an experience with a friend of mine, a friend of ours, and it's a silly story, but they'd been drinking most of the night, and the person in question he had a few bottles at that point. One of them was a peated scotch. He did not tell him it was a peated scotch. He had no idea what peated scotch was, and he gave him a shot of it, and he took it thinking it was just a shot of something, and then got very sick later because he was not prepared for that kind of experience. It was all wrong, and he's been very hesitant about scotches in general. So I sent him some samples of just bourbons at first, because even that, he hasn't gotten into whiskey at all. So I had this wonderful experience to be like, hey, try this, try this, try this. All right, we're going to Irish now. Try this, try this, try this. All right, I'm going to give you scotch. None of them repeated. Try this, try this, try this. And I'm having fun with it. Actually, I think he's going to be in town next week. I almost forgot about that.
And have you got him round yet, or?
Not yet. Again, we're just in the very first stage where I sent him a few different bourbons to try because he kind of likes bourbon in general. I said, well, I have a whole bunch. Let me send you some of the ones I like. And I think the next step is to give him higher proof bourbons because I sent him mostly 45% stuff. And then I sent him the higher proof stuff, and then we're going to work into Irish. I'll take a step back to something different, take a step forward. I have no real plan other than just sending him as much whiskey as possible.
Usually, I think and certainly in the Scotch category, where if you're trying to get someone to come into the sector, you have to make sure most of the time people aren't used to having such high proof, high ABV spirit, and certainly drinking it neat. So you have to be very mindful of the ABV when you're giving them these neat drinks and try and keep it to 43%. However, something interesting in bourbon, I think bourbon explodes at higher ABV.
Yes.
I really think it's a different drink completely. And we had an American lineup for the Glasgow Whisky Club this week. And interestingly, it started with the Eagle Rare 10. That was the opening dram. It moved into Wild Turkey 101. So two good solid staple bourbons to start with.
Yeah. You just named two of the favorites I have.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the Wild Turkey as well. I don't have Wild Turkey here. But, because I need more bottles, I'll probably look to pick up a Wild Turkey 101 now. I did enjoy it.
I've used Wild Turkey as my marker because a handle of Wild Turkey 101 I can get for $40. So anything over that is like expensive to me, and everything under that, it's like, all right, that'll be okay. That's just because of my income problem.
So how much is Wild Turkey 101 for you?
$40. 40. Yeah. And that's for a handle, like a big old thing. For the actual bottle, the nearby place has it for $25. Still isn't too bad.
Yeah, that's a good price. I think we pay quite a wee bit more. Having said that, we can pick up Wild Turkey very, very easily here, but many more bourbons are impossible. We finished the lineup last night with 3 high ABV bourbons, and they were wondrous things. We had a Balcones single malt high ABV. It was excellent, very banana forward. I didn't pick out the banana, but as soon as it was mentioned, you can't taste past it. Then we moved on to a Jack Daniel's single barrel proof, 67.5%.
Jack Daniel's, the regular Jack Daniel's, is where I get banana every single time. But the barrel proof, it's not there, and the barrel proof's really good.
It's incredible, the flavors. It's so rich, so rich. And we finished. And when we talk about privilege whiskeys, actually, and this is a privilege of being in a whiskey club, and specifically the Glasgow Whisky Club, we finished in a 2020 BTAC Weller. It was, I know that these type of whiskies don't need hyped any more than they already are. It's incredible. They're unicorns. I've tried a Thomas H. Handy in the past. I've tried a Stag, very small amounts, very privileged to have been able to try them. But last night, that Weller, that was just wonderful, incredible. And usually on a Glasgow Whisky Club night, there's a poll at the end of the tasting, and everybody votes for their dram of the night, right? Mm-hmm. And there's usually quite a spread of votes because it's very subjective and everybody's got different tastes. But last night, there was a sprinkling of votes elsewhere, and the Weller was ridiculous. I think it probably took 90% of the votes, to the point that we actually had another vote discounting the 7th dram, the Weller.
Wow.
And we've which one came second? Jack Daniel's actually came second. or came first if you discount the BTAC. Amazing. Sugar Kitty, what she's saying, I remember in the 90s, it wasn't just the price was more affordable, but you could actually walk into an everyday store and find exceptional bottles. Today, you're lucky if they have 20. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a craze for a long time. People, I suppose it still happens in the States, people searching for dusties and forgotten bottles.
It started to interweave with the whiskey tube community to some extent, but we're finding more people who are hunting to like get them to people to actually drink rather than just hunting them down to put them on secondary and make a buck.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. There's probably a huge amount of people earning money or attempting to earn money out of that exact practice. No doubt. Absolutely no doubt.
A lot of people probably. Okay. A lot of people did that last year just to kind of survive, I imagine. Where they had the bottle and like, well, I need to pay rent.
Yeah, the secondary market here was incredible. It was incredibly up and down. Some bottles went for ridiculous amounts of money, and some bottles that we expected to go for ridiculous amounts of money didn't, because there were ridiculous amounts of bottles flooding the secondary market. Mm-hmm. And some bottles actually suffered from going at auction for less than retail, because that was what happens when everyone jumps on the secondary market to try and do that. Yeah, and it becomes very complex very, very quickly. Matt, Whiskey Games, Matt Bishop is making a good point there. But I mean, always when we talk about these new distilleries that's opening up, and this is true, I guess, in the States, Ireland, certainly Scotland, Australia, Tasmania, wherever you are, and all these new distilleries, very few of them are at the scale of the established distilleries that were established based on consolidation. The big beam distilleries, Jack Daniels, the scale of those, the Fiddicks and the grain distilleries in Scotland. These are huge distilleries, and there are, literally hundreds of new distilleries opening regularly. But if you add up the volume of liquid that's being produced,
it's an ocean of whiskey. It feels like it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It takes a lot of new distilleries, small-scale new distilleries, to even get close to a fairly small distillery like, I don't know, Glengoyne or Tomatin or something like that. These places are producing 2 million litres perhaps, and then Macallan 15 million litres, Glenlivet 20 plus million litres. So when you get your small 60,000, 100,000 litre type distilleries, you realize that the scale of these is significantly smaller. But I do think it is an issue. I do think that not all of these whiskies will endure. Not all of them will reach 40 years, unfortunately, Matt. Yeah.
A lot of them actually are. Like, if you've been doing it longer, you're already ahead at this point. And then people who are trying to get into it now, who are enthusiastic and want to start this, they're already behind at the start, which is unfortunate but true. Where they have to get through the whole process of even creating something, having to wait. It's like, we want to make whiskey. Let's wait 5 to 10 years. And the company is going to survive 5 to 10 years, I'm sure. Yeah, that's sort of unfortunate situation.
Yeah, and a lot of the new distilleries, they are making whiskey to be sold young, to be sold at 3, 4, 5 years old. But a lot of them are also making whiskey with a view to being sold much, much older than that. They do have very, very long-term views. So it's going to be interesting to see these whiskies change in profile over time as they rely less on cask. And I suppose I'm speaking more about Scotch. Mm-hmm. As they rely less on cask and they start to come into their own. It's going to be interesting to see how they develop over time. It's going to be. I hope we're here, Brian, and healthy enough.
I hope so. I'm trying to stick around.
Yeah, me too. Let's try and stick around together. That would be a good thing, right? Just to be healthy and be able to just enjoy this amazing liquid for years and years to come.
It's a glorious thing. That's why we drink it. It's water of life. It's supposed to help us just keep going for a little longer.
Yeah, in moderation, of course.
In moderation. I've mentioned to many people that getting into whiskey helped me drink less. As strange as that sounds, for most of my young adulthood, we'll say, I was drinking alcohol to, get drunk, and it was self-medication, clearly. But after I started getting into whiskey, maybe when I was after 25, I think I started getting into whiskey at 27, 28, maybe, actually it's probably 30 something. It's definitely 30 something. Anyway, that helped me curb that sort of impulse where I would drink too much every single time, or drink to the point of being inebriated, at least, not absolutely trashed every time, but the medicated part where everything was kind of numb and I was a little wobbly, that sort of thing. So it was good to find a community of people who are more positive and willing to share in a different way. Where there's the bar scene where it's like chug, chug, chug. And then there's this where it's like, all right, let's all sit and we're going to enjoy a little bit of this. It's going to be lovely. That sort of environment is better for me in general.
Coming from someone who's just bottle killed the last of this Eagle Rare, I thought there was only half a dram left in. There's actually quite a large. This is like a couch pour that's I've poured into the glass. But it's time to say goodbye to this. I've really enjoyed my time with it. But I agree with you fully, and I've said it on my own channel as well. People have heard me talk about how whiskey helped me do exactly that, Brian. It helped me have a healthier relationship with alcohol because I was drinking for flavor. I was sipping and tasting, and I wasn't just looking for that kind of end spot that you were talking about there, that kind of numbness or whatever it may be.
Yeah, slowing down, enjoying the experience.
I didn't enjoy being drunk. I don't think I was very good at being drunk. And what I like is to remember the night and the stories and the laughs and the jokes and the moments and the flavors and the things in the glass.
Yeah, and now I find that blank. It's like, I don't know what I did.
Yeah. I mean, it still happens and it comes with age, right? I'm blaming age for those moments now. But what I find now is that I want to remember the whiskies. I want to remember the whiskey experiences and the moments. And now the challenge is enjoying a nice flight of whiskies and not having the effect of the alcohol hit you too hard.
Yeah, trying to keep that balance.
Yeah,
the smaller glass helps. At Irene Tan's place specifically, she always uses the tiny Glencairn, so you're always very aware of that's a small amount. Granted, she gives you many, many pours because she's a very generous person. But in the end, even if you feel a little bit, there's a restaurant right next to her place you can eat, and you'll be fine. There was a question from John McElwain. I wanted to highlight that real quick before I forget about it entirely.
Yeah, John McElwain. What's his question? It's
want to get bourbon? You can't find it though. Like what bourbon do you want that you can't get your hands on right now?
Me.
What it is. Yes, the guest.
Well, apart from BTEX, I think one I might like to try would maybe be. I think it's actually one that we can get here now. You know, the Jefferson's Ocean, the one that they send on a ship and send it around, and you have it.
I have one of them. It was actually donated to the channel, so I wouldn't have bought it normally. But
I mean, I don't know if it's particularly good.
It's okay. It's definitely different. That was the neat thing. Is like there's something definitely different about this, and seen more of the world than I have.
Well, if it's genuinely something and it's not just a gimmick, and obviously they're putting it on the ship and they hope that it's the kind of agitation and it's rolling around in a barrel and things. But you would imagine that if there's any truth in kind of salty atmospheres and things permeating the wood, whether it's through expansion and contraction or whatever it may be, then that something like that is going to display it. So I wonder if there's a saltiness on that bourbon. There
is a little bit. That's a weird thing. I had it and I was like, I don't know if this is actually in here or I'm just imagining it.
Yeah.
The fun part about these is they have different voyages. Like this is voyage 23. So that means there have been 23 times they've gone across the whole, the equator, I think, with the with the different barrels at different times. So they've been having fun with it. It's a neat experiment. It's something just interesting to try, just to try it.
Yeah. But there are, if I tune into any of the It's Bourbon Night, Mash and Drum, Bourbon Junkies, ADHD Whiskies, if I tune into any of these guys and watch them for long enough, I'd have a list as long as my arm of things that I want to try, but I cannot easily get. Not a lot of bourbon makes it over here. And that makes sense because not a lot of bourbon makes it to every state in the US, right?
Yeah, it's all varied and it's all it's different in every state. I don't know why it's the United States, but they're like, you know what, liquor laws are going to be different in every single place because of the prohibition thing. It was one of those. Okay, we're not going to deal with it. Every state, you do your own thing, have fun. So every state's different. So distribution is different. What you can get where, the prices are all different. It's bonkers. In my state particularly, it's a lot of mom and pop shops. It's like little tiny hole in the wall kind of places, and very few of the big name stores have been around until recently. There's like one nearby that opened a couple of years ago, so I usually go there since it's 5 minutes away, and my brother used to work there, so I kind of know the
convenience. I think that I get the impression that the US is often, especially for things like this, a little bit like, more than just 50 states, but 50 different territories, 50 different countries almost, when it comes to laws, state laws. And
even the shipping of alcohol, that's only changed recently. And part of it was due to what happened last year, where it's like, oh, people can't go get their drink at restaurants anymore. Oh, people can't go to bars. They still want the alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should change that a little bit, like right quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone's going to give you a gift at the Bastards Ball someday.
Listen, this is Matt. Matt Zitrick. He's one of the most generous people you've ever met in your life. I still have samples in my cupboard here from 2019 from Matt. He gave me a box full of various bourbons and American whiskies to try. I was blown away. There's just everything that I picked out, things that I can't buy here, things that I'd never seen or tried before. Amazing. He's amazing. Alison, he just poured an Eagle Rare 10 and all he can smell is rye. Maybe as in RYE rye.
He might be joking. RI is Rhode Island, but I don't know.
Rhode Island?
Yeah, RI is Rhode Island. So I'm like, maybe. I know living here, the ocean's right down the street, basically.
I think there is a wee bit of rye here. Very gentle, very in the background. It's quite sweet and round, though, to me.
I love it.
There is a wee bit of spice.
There's almost
there is a thinner side to Eagle Rare 10. It's like I would love to try this at 50% plus ABV just to see if it puffed out that thin mid palate. And I've not tried it in contrast with this other bottle, which I think is higher ABV. Yes, this is 50% ABV. I grabbed this. We synchronized, didn't we? Four Roses. Because I had the Eagle Rare last night in that Glasgow Whiskey Club flight, and the Wild Turkey followed it at 50.5%, of course. 101. Speak American, I guess, tonight.
I always actually say percentages. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like I don't say proof. I know some people, a lot of people in the United States do, but I just haven't. I find it easier to remember percentages rather than having to say a proof for some reason.
Well, I mean, it's at least the exchange is easy, right? It's
that's the other thing.
101 is well, it's 50.5, obviously, just completely half. But we noticed the difference between the two last night, where the extra ABV just helped kind of, we think, lift the whole experience.
Yes. I have become like a proof hound. I think some people say, there's another word, but I'm not going to. Some people say something else in jest. But for me, I like proof hound.
Oh, no, I've really been enjoying this Eagle Rare, really been enjoying it. But this Four Roses is more appealing.
Yeah. These are two of my favorites. I'm so glad you we synchronized to pick them, because Eagle Rare I bumped into simply because of the samples, as we were talking about earlier. Someone donated samples to the channel. It was a blind. It was like the first and I think only blind I've done where I had no idea what anything was. I just poured them, sampled them, and tried to pick out which one I liked the best. And it turned out it was an Eagle Rare store pick. So as soon as I found that out, I went, well, I guess I have to get myself the Eagle Rare. And ever since, I wanted to have a bottle all the time. And when I don't, it's noticeable. I think that's one of the things I'm going to go over at some point is which bottles, like of all the bottles you have, which ones are you refilling and which ones do you notice are not there? Like if it's gone, you know it isn't there, kind of thing. And that's one for me. The Eagle Rare has become that kind of bottle. And scarily enough, unfortunately, the place I used to get it, where I could just go there and they were on the shelf. Last time I went, they weren't on the shelf. I actually had to ask about it, and it was in the back. So that's a little terrifying. Looks like Whiskey Crusader is going to give you all the things next time he sees you.
He's talking about a 17-year-old Eagle Rare and things as well. He's a gentleman, is Matt. They're talking about, in the tasting notes on this Four Roses, they're talking about peach and apricot and pear, oak, light spice, and caramel. The caramel is definitely here, and the fruitiness, well, I go with the peach and apricot, yeah.
I like. Oh, I have to say the thing. Please like, comment, and subscribe. There, done. If you're enjoying the show.
There's a lovely sweet, almost like a syrup, like a citrus syrup in the Four Roses. It's like a mandarin. You eat fruit from a tin occasionally, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have orange segments or mandarin segments or satsuma, that kind of, and it's often in sugared water. It's often canned in syrup.
Yeah, I was thinking of what the hell are they? There's like these oranges, but they're tiny. I think
kumquats.
Maybe you call them kumquats. I'm not even sure what they call them here, but they're tiny and they have no seeds in them. And you just unpeel them and just pop
clementines.
Them. Clementines, that's right.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing I'm speaking about. Exactly that.
I also feel that higher proof just changes the whole texture of stuff occasionally. Like the bourbon itself, the texture is just completely different. At least
the Eagle Rare is more of a kind of cherry red type experience.
There's more oak on the Four Roses. Hello.
Bourbon is a nice drink. It's taken me a long time to understand and realize that bourbon is a very, very nice drink.
I have a sweet tooth, so that's really all it took.
I don't have a sweet tooth. And I do struggle with super sweet whiskeys, and I struggle with things like rum occasionally and sweet drinks. But I don't mind one or two. But bourbon is a different kind of sweetness, right? The sweetness is integrated. It's inside the drink. It's not what leads, I think.
Yeah, it's there, but it's not prominent. It's not like in your face. I know personally I have a limit to my sweet tooth. Like there's my brother is a somm for wines, or at least I don't remember which level he is, but he used to work at a vineyard. I used to go visit him a lot. He used to give me a bunch of samples. And he gave me a dessert wine at one point, and I could not drink that. It was just, this is the point where I'm like, I don't understand how someone can enjoy something this sweet. This is crazy. It's like that level of sweet I can't deal with. But I have always had kind of a sweet tooth for some things, although not for desserts. Not so much anymore. Now I make whiskey my dessert.
I would put oak and wood spice before the sweetness in both of these glasses.
Oh yeah.
And I think someone said in a tasting last night that if you ever enjoy a cigar, and I used to enjoy a cigar years ago, but I haven't had a cigar in years. I'm not sure it would appeal now. But it makes sense to me why these drinks would go, the richness, the woodiness, why they would go with a cigar. I can see the appeal there.
Yeah.
It's a much richer drink. It's almost odd comparing it to Scotch whiskey, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, I thought about doing that, like doing a whole comparison. Actually, I did that once. I think it was like, what's the difference? I did a stream, and it was Irish, Scotch, bourbon, and Japanese. Like I had all four in front of me just to try and pick out exactly what was different about all of them. It's kind of fun. It was kind of something different for me anyway.
I mean, I have Scotch whiskies that play very much like bourbon, but they tend to be grain based. So, either wheat or corn based Scotch whiskies. But malt for me, malt whiskey, whether it's Scotch or something else. I mean, it is a completely different drink. It is different.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very, very different.
I always get a weird funk on many scotches. I don't know if it's the malt or something else, but there's always this funk out of a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, you know, what's really intriguing to me is that when I hear people speaking about a funkiness in Scotch whiskey, it's usually an American.
Mm-hmm.
There are funky flavors in Scotch. You can find funk in Loch Lomond's and Campbelltown and Ben Nevis and Ben Romack and Highland Park even, and lots more. Tobermory, Bruichladdich. There are things that we recognise here as having a funky element, but often if you hear Scotch spoken about in America, and this makes sense, they're talking about things that we wouldn't describe as funky as being funky, and I think that due to kind of cultural regionality. You know, there's the palate that you're brought up with.
Yep.
Whereas we've probably been desensitized to a lot of the kind of more earthy notes, the clays, the cereals, the aromatic notes, maybe the kind of grassy stuff, mulchy notes, things like that. We just accept as part of our environment, I think, here. Living in a damp environment, perhaps. I'm not sure.
I'm just trying to figure out what exactly it is, because it happens so sporadically. It's never with something peated. Like the peated stuff, I don't get that malt funk thing. And I'm guessing that it's a malt funk thing because it happens all the time with Scotch. And I find for Scotches, at least, I lean towards the fruitier stuff. Some of the specifics that come into mind immediately that I really enjoyed. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could get this. I think it was a Compass Box stuff, of all things, not the single malt. It was blends. And it was Spice Tree, and I think, what was the other one called?
Oak Cross?
No, I think it had some kind of Traveler or something on it. I forget the name of it.
Traveler?
Yeah. It was like a sample pack. So it was Peat Monster, the one I can't remember, and Spice Tree. Did I say Spice Tree? I don't remember.
You said Spice Tree. So
okay, but there was
Oak
another
Cross, Asila?
No.
The Spaniard?
I can go back and check what it was, because I did it in December. So
But
a little while ago.
Spaniard? It's not the Spaniard?
Spaniard, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I remember it just had like a person on it. That's why it was eluding me there.
Yeah, it's a more recent one. Listen, the Compass Box blends are put together very, very well.
Crazy good.
From very well chosen stock. You can only do that if you're connected.
Yeah.
And I think John Glazer is absolutely connected to get the stock that he can get.
Definitely.
Is there a correlation with funk and dunnage warehouse? Al is asking. I think they're different. I think they are different. I think dunnage is it's in the same spectrum. I think it's maybe in the same corner of the flavor wheel. But dunnage is more of an antique, dusky. We say fusty. It's always difficult to find a direct translation for fusty. Can you understand what fusty might mean, Brian?
I have an idea of what it means, but that's just because of how it sounds. I don't know
fusty, yeah.
What it is.
It's kind of like, it's like if you have something that's been left alone and unattended for a long time and then it's picked up and disturbed, it's going to like old books, ancient books, or if you're in an old wooden shed and it has to be, you know, just left and you open it up and it just smells old without smelling off-putting or stale. It's not bad. It's just fusty. It can be
maybe like the closest thing I can compare to that is maybe an antique store. Something of
absolutely. Fustiness is prevalent in antique stores, no doubt. But that's all of that kind of thing is wrapped up in that dunnage note. And it's difficult. When the Scotch Test Dummies came over to Scotland a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking about this very topic, dunnage. What is that dunnage? Because they'd come across dunnage being used as a tasting note a lot, and they started to use it or think about it based on how they interpreted the examples they'd picked up in their experience, I think. But then they walk into a dunnage warehouse and they stand and they sit in the dunnage warehouse and they sip whiskies in these environments, and it's just dawns on them exactly what that dunnage thing is.
Yeah.
Bizarrely, it is not new to them. To have it amplified at that level is new to them, I think. but the smell and the taste, it wasn't a strange or new experience. So it does, you have it there, or maybe they'd only experienced it in the whiskies. I don't know. I would have to ask them.
There was another thing that came to mind when you said that word, and this is very, very specific to me. Not many people would be able to experience this, but as I was growing up with my parents' house, believe it or not, there was a gentleman who lived across the road from us. And do you know? I imagine you do, but you know what a hobbit hole is? Basically a hill with a door on it, and they live inside it. So this guy built his own house, and he made it basically a hobbit hole. So it was just a hill with a door, and he carved out the inside somehow, or at least built on top of it somehow, or inside it. I don't know. I didn't even know how he did it, but it, you know, for my whole young life, I can remember going over to his kid's house and playing with him, and we would slide on the roof kind of thing. But I'm thinking like inside that building, inside that environment is something that came to mind because it was very distinct. Like I can remember right now what the smell was like, and I can compare it to what you're talking about just because I was in that specific place.
I imagine that would be a fusty house.
Yes.
In order to avoid fusty happening, you need ventilation and you need fresh air coming through. And when that's allowed to happen to a limited level, or perhaps at a very low level, you have this kind of build-up of fustiness. There's a few decent examples in here. Graham Young is Fausty saying old damp socks left in your hockey bag for a fortnight. Such a Canadian statement, Graham. But I mean that suggests that it's pungent and it's off-putting, old damp hockey bags and damp socks. And Sugar Kitty saying dusty ozone, maybe. And Mike is Molasses is saying to Graham Young, I'm grateful I never came across that note in my whiskey. Yeah. Stilton cheese. Yeah, that's you can get that note, interestingly, Alan Graham. I don't want to say the distilleries that I associate that smell with, but old blue cheese and stale lactic notes have picked up on one or two distilleries. We won't mention what they are, and it's certainly not something that's happening in the modern times. But in the 90s, there was a couple of distilleries known for that very thing.
Yep.
Something like mildew. Occasionally like mildew. It does go into mildew. Bilbo Baggins lived in a house like that. I wonder what he would think our house is spelled like. Yeah, so you actually lived next to somebody. You had a friend whose dad built himself a house into a hillside.
He was big on building it. His whole back. He had a giant piece of property. That was the crazy thing. He since donated a portion of it to the Aquidneck Land Trust, which is, believe it or not, I grew up on an island in Rhode Island, and it's called Aquidneck Island, which is a weird thing to say when you live in the States. Unlike in your situation, everything's an island and it's fine. But it wasn't connected to the mainland. It was only you had to have bridges to get on there.
It was a genuine island, yeah.
Yeah, and there are other ones that you can only get to by water or by boat. I mean, so what was my point? I lost what it was. But yes, that house across the street.
He donated a portion of it.
Yeah, he donated it to the Aquidneck Land Trust. They made that whole area into a walking path. So my parents have this wonderful scenic walking path right next to them now, and the price of their property is going up by the day. It's a little nuts. Even the part that was it was just a field once across the street now has, I think it's 3 ginormous mansion style houses there. It's crazy. I don't know why that's a thing, but I guess the price of stuff on an island like that is just going to skyrocket.
Well, I think the nearest thing we have to hobbit houses or buildings being built into hillsides in Scotland would be perhaps Macallan's new distillery, which is on a gargantuan scale, but it's certainly meant to look a wee bit like hillsides. What kind of scotches are you drawn towards? What is your Scotch jam, or are you still very much exploring?
Oh no, I started with Scotch, believe it or not. I'm trying to make the short version of the story. My father and I worked on Fred Minnick's book, Whiskey Women. We did the audiobook for him. Links down below. But
yeah.
So we did the audiobook for him, and that got both of us curious. Like, he recorded the book, I had to listen to it for errors, and he got curious about something called Lefroy because it was mentioned in the book. So we had to look around a little bit. And eventually, we found a place that had Lefroy. We tried it. He really loves peated Scotch. And
What age were you at this time, just for context?
let's see, I was probably, when did it actually happen? That's the weird part. I keep having to remind myself I'm 40. So it was probably when I was 35 or 36.
So not so long ago, right? Good.
No, not long ago at all. Like, you can go back to the beginning of the videos that I've done on this channel, and that'll give you almost an exact time of when I started getting into whiskey, because the only reason I made those videos was for myself, and it was, what was it? It was an advent calendar by someone who's over there that doesn't ship over here anymore.
Master of Malt.
Yeah, it was it was Master of Malt. Drinks by the Dram.
Drinks by the Dram, yes.
So I did one of those, and that was kind of how I first started exploring it a little more. But initially, it was just finding this Lefroy thing and trying it, and I didn't hate it. That was the weird thing. It smelled so weird and was so bizarre, but the taste of it was actually very interesting. Whereas opposed to the smell of it was a little intense, let's say. But it didn't like floor me or anything. It was nice to start in with this like, whoa, this is weird. What else is there kind of moment. And then it just kind of branched out. That's how I got the calendar, just to explore different things at that point.
And that would have been a perfect way of doing it as well. Absolutely. Giving you lots of variation in there.
Yeah, I still have some of the bottles I initially got, I think. Now, come to think of it, there are a few that are completely gone, like Lefroy Glore. That was delicious. Totally gone.
Yeah.
And then I've got things like, I think it was one you didn't like as much, but it's like Glenfiddich Fire and Cane. I used to drink a lot of Johnny Walker initially just because the price was right, basically.
Yeah.
But of course, I went to try all the rest. I went to try, let's see, it was Johnny Walker Double Black. Then we got a sample pack, which I believe had the black, the blue, believe it or not, platinum, and gold. So we got to do a little comparison of all four of those, which was nice. So it was a lovely experience just to go through it all. I didn't make videos of any of that, though. That's the problem. That was early on, where I was just drinking it to drink it and doing the occasional December tasting thing if I could afford it, which I couldn't, but I bought them anyway. So, yeah.
Well, you don't need to turn every experience into something you record. I mean, sometimes it's nice just to relax and enjoy it. So
yeah,
I struggle to even keep a tasting book. I have a tasting book. It's always on my desk here, and I hope that some days I'm in the mood to kind of open it up and make notes. But the problem I have is that would I refer back to that? Would I just make a lot of data that I would never refer back to? That's what I worry about, that I'm not going to ever use it again. I'm just going to be writing it down. But I think one of the reasons to write it down is that I think it helps you maybe memorize a little bit. And it helps you concentrate and focus a wee bit more. I'm
really great at both of those, I'm sure.
You are.
No, I'm not. Not at all. Not at all. That's why that's why I started making the videos to begin with, so I could just record the experience, and then if I was curious about what I thought about it, I can go back and look at it. That was the initial reason for even making any videos on YouTube. Like, you can look at the early stuff I did. I didn't expect anyone to ever view it at all. Just me. That was it. There's nothing fancy about it. There's no editing. It's just a 5 to 7 minute clip of me going.
Brian, I think that's the most amazing thing about YouTube. I think that's what traditional marketing, whether it's an agency or an outlook or a doctrine, or that's what they're struggling to grapple with a little bit, is that realism. It's real people, and you can't. It's an organic thing.
Yeah,
it can't be contrived. It can't easily be. That's the appeal to YouTube, and it's so jarring, the juxtaposition against a polished video from a corporate entity.
Oh yeah.
Versus something that you and I sit in our spare room in our house and put out. It's not going to appeal to everyone, but it's so clearly different that I think that that's why you're perhaps surprised that people watch it, because we all feel, what have we got to offer? We're just people, and I think that that's what we do offer, is the fact that we are people and that we're willing.
Oh yeah, it's our experience that we want to share with others, and we also want others to share their experiences with us, kind of thing. So it's a two-way road.
So who was talking about the Clynelish 14? It was Donald Rance, wasn't it? Good to see you,
Yes.
Donald. He's talking about Clynelish 14. I predict that Clynelish 14 can't last forever. Clynelish is spiraling in terms of price. Port Charlotte 10 was the dram that taught him how to love peat as opposed to tolerating it. Interesting. I don't have the 10-year-old, but I did pick up from my floor when I was tidying today. I picked up the Isla Barley. I'll pour a tiny wee bit just to contrast these two bourbons. Time for a dram. Gregor is in. Well, hello there all. Hello, Gregor. Hello to you.
Hello. I see that and I think of Robin Williams dressed up like a woman, which feels weird.
Hello. Yeah. It probably helps if with my accent too. Doubtfire accent.
Yeah. Oh, that is true. Whiskey Crusades. I have not seen you sample writing, which is probably a good thing, but I've heard the stories. My handwriting's terrible too, by the way.
I'll show you some Matt Zetrick writing because I've
oh boy,
Matt Zetrick's writing.
Pick the ones you can't read and be like, "What's this say?"
No, I can read all of this. These are good examples of Matt's writing, but here are two that I've not sipped yet. Wild Turkey Decades, Master's Keep, 52% ABV. I bet you that's a cracker. And then we've got here a Kentucky Owl, 11-year-old rye. Just let that wee camera focus. Come on, little camera. Can you see this bottle here? Don't look.
I have the same problem with my camera. It never wants to focus when I want it.
There we go. That's Matt Zetrick's handwriting there.
Not that terrible. I almost want to say mine's worse. I tried to write in cursive and it just looks like a child was trying to do cursive.
Yeah, block capitals are the way for me these days too.
I specifically bought a label maker for when I do start giving out more samples. It's something I'm gradually getting into because I'm terrified of any kind of responsibility to giving someone something in a relatively short amount of time, hoping nothing happens to it on its journey, we'll say, to them. But it's something I want to do. Again, like I look behind me, and I think I did the math once or twice trying to imagine how long it would take me to drink all of this if I drank 1 ounce every hour. And believe it or not, it was shorter than I thought, but it was about half a year or 4 months if I just kept drinking and could for all of these bottles. And that was a while ago. I've gotten quite a few more bottles since then.
Even at 1 ounce an hour, you might be dead before those.
I would definitely be dead. That's why I have to give it away at some point. I just have to give it.
Yeah, I'm never going to do that mathematical exercise. That's absolutely for sure. What may happen is that as time goes on, I mean, if once the events and everything start up again, I think I'll start to have events that I just turn up with a couple of boxes full of partially full open bottles and just share it with everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And demand that people turn up to these events and not bring any whiskey, because that's the trouble. You have these events and say that's a great idea, and they bring all their whiskey.
I have heard of what the heck was it? The after party kind of stuff, or the stuff after the Bastards Ball sort of environments where it's just all those whiskey enthusiasts in one place.
That's Matt Zetrick at La Quinta, yeah.
Yeah, that story.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just Matthew. He brings huge amounts of whiskey, but everybody's bringing their own whiskey, and it's just terrific. It's just a terrific example of why this community, why this drink, why these gatherings are just so amazing, because it just encourages the most generous behaviour. It's wonderful to witness. I've poured a wee Port Charlotte here, a wee Isla Barley, and I've still got a little drop here of how many people would get really, really angry with me if I took this little drop of Four Roses and tipped in my Isla Barley. How would you feel about that, Brian?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love doing stuff like that.
Just
I do that on many of my streams where I have numerous different whiskeys, or not always different whiskeys, but I'll have 3 or 4 different types of bourbon. And then at the end, when I've sipped most of them, I'll be like, all right, what happens if we just mix these all together? Let's see what that tastes like. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not.
It's kind of perverse because I was enjoying all of these whiskies.
Oh yeah,
But
that's
as the
even more
flavors
reason to do it.
as the flavors kind of merged, I've actually got a chipped glass here. This is one for the bin.
Oh no.
Chip on the glass, but I'll just make sure it's at the opposite end.
Didn't turn out like you wanted, I imagine.
Actually, it's still, I mean, I've literally just poured the two things together right now.
It's clashing.
No, it's not too bad. I only poured a wee teaspoon in. I've still got some of the peated port shallot left, but I'm going to put the rest of it in. Just for kicks. I'm not looking at the chat because I'm going to be getting some abuse, I know.
No, it's whiskey alchemy. It's fun.
Yeah.
All the more reason, especially with the collection you have behind you. You can mix and match anything just to make it interesting. And people love the infinity bottles. That's a thing.
Yeah, I don't have any infinity bottles that's a mix of bourbon and scotch, I don't think.
I don't either. I've thought about it.
It's gone very peaty now. The first sip, the first wee teaspoon I put in didn't add too much peat, but this is very peaty now. Huh. I'm okay with that. It's not an incredible thing. I think, as you say, there is an element of division there still. They're not together. But I think it's okay. I think it's interesting. I think it's just interesting to add peat to that oak and that wood spice, and then recognize some Scotch whiskies that have probably been in a very active American oak barrel. Peated whiskies that can taste a wee bit like this. And you realize that a lot of those flavors are clearly coming from that oaky influence.
Mm.
And the peat interacting with that oaky influence too. That it brings a kind of salted caramel thing.
I like to think that there's kind of a balance of trying to find something along the lines of like having enough char to make it interesting, and then having sort of a sweetness. Like one of my favorite desserts is creme brulee. So if you can find that kind of balance somehow, that'd be amazing.
Okay, as soon as you say creme brulee, yeah, because there's lovely vanillas here as well. And, creme brulee, I'm sure it's the same in the States as well, where they literally scorch the sugar to make it like glass.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah, I love it. And if it's made perfectly, you get it's warm on top and it's cold. It's set cold. And you break through the top. And
it's on the list.
Restaurants, Brian. I miss restaurants.
Yeah,
you're making me.
They are open around here, thankfully, but I still feel sketchy. Like we were talking about earlier, that kind of anxious. Well, what is normal? What is okay? I'm going to restaurants where people don't have masks on. It's like, I mean, I'm vaccinated, but I don't know about any of these people.
Yeah, I know. We said we wouldn't talk about that tonight, didn't we?
Well, it's one of those things where I know it's a topic that people are kind of about, but it's also something that's happened to all of us. Like we all experienced the last year, and we can't pretend it didn't happen. I mean, we do enjoy this environment, but it does actually help, in my case, to talk about it a little bit. Not like harp on every single thing that's wrong, but just to go over. It's like, yeah, we all went through like a traumatic experience, and sometimes you have to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't think the traumatic experiences are over.
No, unfortunately,
for a while to go yet. In the UK, Scotland's coming out of it now. We're on a downward trend now, but for a while we had the honour in Scotland of being the European capital of COVID.
Ooh.
It was incredible, and it's thankfully it wasn't so much deaths and hospitalisation; it was case count. So the vaccine is doing its thing. However, we're constantly worried about things like new variants. And the biggest concern actually for us still as a family is that long COVID is very prevalent in kids. And in the UK, we have decided that we're not going to fathom a roadmap to vaccinate our children at any point. And it's just, I don't understand. We have barely sentient beings at the helm right now. It's very frustrating.
And your wife's a nurse, right?
Yeah, my wife's in medicine. She is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a leader who almost died of irony last year.
Oh yes, I know who you're talking about. The guy who has a mop. I know that guy.
Boris Johnson. Yeah, he was telling everyone it's all fine, and then he ends up in hospital and critically ill over it. So it's all a wee bit frustrating and worrying because the real reason for most of these decisions tend to always be political and financial.
Yeah, I haven't been a fan.
And they're just justified with various languages. So it's going to be interesting to see how things go. But you're right, and I think one of the most amazing things is that it was difficult for me to even think about another topic in my life, or even in the last 100 or 200 years, that has affected the global condition the way it has, the way we've all been affected by it.
In my case, it was, I don't want to say it was a good thing, but it was one of those things where it happened and not a lot changed in my life because I've always been kind of to myself, we'll say. And unfortunately, it also gave a lot of other people that experience of anxiety just by going out, like leaving your place of residence and being somewhere else. Like I touched on earlier, it gave everyone a little bit of a hint of what that feels like. So I hope in the future, and again, there's other things that we have to be concerned about, like mental health needs to be brought to the front after such an experience. It has to be something that people are willing to talk about and that people have to be more comfortable talking about because everyone's gone through a lot this past year. And you're not just going to come out of this being okay. You start.
I agree. Even people who went in completely healthy or untroubled by such concerns are going to find themselves feeling a wee bit different in a lot of ways. It's true for me too. It remains to be seen how it's affected me long term. I haven't really been in any kind of public gatherings or groups of people.
Yeah, but you were talking about your visitor. It's like, what do I do? What's normal right now?
Yeah, I can't shake his hand. It's weird inviting him into the house. He's not a tradesman or anything. And I think he's actually could be the first, not immediately close friend, family type visitor that's been in this house in a year and a half tonight. It's quite incredible. And I clearly have been affected to some extent because here I am hanging out with you, mixing good bourbon with good Scotch.
You've definitely lost your mind. I apologize.
And enjoying it.
Yes. That's the best part. It's like, we're all a little mad here. It's fine. I'm trying to find, I have a bunch of like Scotch samples here. I'm trying to find something interesting since you pour a little Scotch. I feel it's appropriate, that you are here not pouring a Scotch. Would feel kind of weird. I have so many random samples. A lot of them I actually tried some of and then just put them aside because I couldn't finish the whole thing in one stream.
Steve A thinks that this is the Mash and Drums handwriting, not Matt's, and that combo seems
I did see that earlier.
No, this is, I guarantee you this is Matt Zittrick's handwriting because it's from Matt Zittrick's selection box and with the orange labels on it.
There was something that was said earlier about that. I didn't catch it. Trying to go back and catch chat stuff is not easy. I don't even know how far back this is going. And this is one of those situations where there's so many more people in here than I'm used to. But I'm happy about it. But also, all right.
No. Yeah, it's jarring when you look at the number and it's different from what you expect. Either it's much lower or much higher. They're both jarring for different reasons. Jason wrote those when he was here. So it genuinely is Jason's.
Yeah, I did catch that, thankfully.
Okay, so Matt's handwriting is worse than this. This is Jason Calori's. Fantastic. There you go.
Yeah, I'm glad I saw that because that does sound right. Okay, that is right. That is right. I do look forward to like you coming here. Well, when you do happen to get back to the States, whenever hopefully that happens. There's so many other things to try. I mean, one of the things that I tried a little while ago was Chattanooga, and they're doing some crazy things. Which one did I try?
Yeah, I mean, I'm finding it difficult to keep up with domestic whiskies here, Scotch and English whiskey, Irish. I'm really finding it difficult. I don't know how any one single person can keep up.
I don't even try.
In any category. It's really, really, really difficult. We touched on that ever so slightly tonight with the visit I had tonight. It's silly to complain about it, but it's really difficult to keep up. And it's interesting that nobody, there's going to be kind of no commentator that's capable of knowing all the whiskies coming from all the places. We're going to need to do this as a community.
I think that's starting to happen. I don't want to say fracturing, but there are going to be different whiskey tube people who will function in different paths. Like you do mostly Scotch. I don't do mainly anything. So I like to just kind of feel out things. And I can't do any of the expensive stuff. I just can't afford it. But I've been lucky to get donations and stuff. And that's given me that's given me the opportunities I would not have had. Like with the oceans, I would never have been able to buy that unless it was donated.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I mean, I think that Jefferson's Ocean is probably available here now. I remember Scotch Taste Dummies reviewing it a couple of years back and me being intrigued because although I felt it was perhaps a wee bit gimmicky, I was interested in the concept and how it would affect things for various reasons. But for me, I am rooted in Scotch. That's my comfort zone. It's probably what I love more than anything else. And
you're literally surrounded by it.
But that makes absolute sense, yes. But I do try to be really, really curious and inclusive and open-minded because I like new experiences and I want to discover them and enjoy them, but also because I want to be reassured of the reasons I love Scotch. And it is a terrific thing to be able to sip and enjoy in contrast with lots of other things.
And in the States anyway, there's just so much that's happening in general that there are even, I know in Scotland, there's different regions, and that's kind of a thing that's starting to emerge in this area. Like even one of the bottles I have from Rhode Island, it says, and it says New England single malt. I don't know if this will show up.
Wow. New England single malt. Incredible. Yeah. And we're seeing Texas single malt.
Right.
We're seeing... last night I had it wasn't a single malt, it was a rye. I had a very interesting thing that I'd never heard of before from 2 James Distillery in Detroit. And this is like a bar in Detroit, in a pretty rundown area of Detroit. And they've basically just got a hole in the wall that you can peek through and you see a distillery sitting behind. They've got a single still, but from that still they produce rum and gin and whiskey, bourbon. And I tried Catcher's Rye from 2 James Distillery. It was odd. It was very odd.
It was really weird.
But it was fantastic at the same time. You can get those drinks that taste odd, but they're really intriguing. And you want to go back and work out what it is that makes it odd.
Yep.
It was an excellent take on rye. It really, really was. Again, Glasgow Whisky Club. Al is asking, Roy, how do you differentiate between the bottles opened and the ones kept sealed? Do you mean how I differentiate between what I'm going to open? Well, it's mood, of course it's mood, but I have to say that the majority of the bottles I'm finding open now, certainly the ones that are still pretty full and I'm struggling to get through, they've been opened for the channel, because they're one of these kind of ignored, because most of them are pretty recent. So I'm opening more and more and more for the channel, and I'm opening less just as kind of personal mood and moment. But that's normally what it is. And DC is saying, does Aqvavitae have an American whiskey he loves? Sorry if already asked. Because the trips, DC, that I've made to Texas over the last couple of years, 2018 and 2019, I've got a fondness for Texas bourbon and Texas whiskey generally, Texas rye, whatever it may be. I'm very, very curious, and I feel a little bit more connected to it because I've been there. I've walked around in the environment. I've tasted the air and the food and everything that makes that thing the thing that it is.
Oh, the food.
So I do enjoy Texas. But I also enjoy, we had a Michter's last night in the lineup that was pretty fantastic. Michter's Unblended. I enjoy High West, Westland. I enjoy Stranahan's. I'm trying to think outside of Kentucky, of course. It's
not easy.
Houses. Yeah, but all of it, I'm curious about all of it. But I'd say my soft spot just now, and I like exploring Balcones, and in other Texas whiskies.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to get a few of those samples.
Do you know what I love about Balcones, Brian?
What?
Holding up that bottle and having that rich explosion of flavor, and then you turn the bottle around and it says 19 months.
Yep. The amount of time, I was like, what?
You're holding your 19-year-old Scotch in one hand and your 19-month Texas whiskey in the other hand. And, they're not comparable. No. But in terms of flavor engagement, they are. And that makes it incredible.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see the environment. What environment itself just does to whiskey. I know there's something that has been touched on in different videos, different between the place and the like all the way from the grain to the end. The hell's the word?
Yeah, we're avoiding the word terroir, aren't we?
Yeah, that one.
Yes, I know, but there is something about location. There is something about regions, and I know that it's easy to walk outside of the region and peated Speysiders and unpeated Islas and everything in between. But there is still something to it. There is a kind of generalized classic style. And some whiskies display that prominently. I really do believe that. Can you notice, you see how much I'm enjoying this wee peated abomination I've made here?
A whole new thing. I'm trying to figure out which Scotch I should pour since I have all these samples in front of me, and I have so many that I can't decide.
It's not new. I think there is actually one that you can buy on Master of Malt right now that they've created themselves. It's a blend of peated Scotch and American bourbon.
That sounds fun.
I can't remember what it's called.
It's gonna happen. Like the globe itself is one thing, so eventually the whiskey people are just gonna start just merging things because just the curiosity in the whiskey community is pretty big. Like there's always that, well, what will happen if we do this, or what will happen if we use this kind of barrel instead of that kind of barrel? What will happen in this environment? Well, they sent the whiskey to space, man.
Yeah, I think it's going to be unlikely that we create anything absolutely groundbreaking and redefining.
No, I think just see what happens.
But it's fun just to kind of enjoy the drink, and it's nice to sacrifice a few drams for what I've done tonight. I hope I didn't offend anybody. Does Aqvavitae have I got that one. It's not every dram that you pour has to be absolutely savoured and absolutely precious, and every drop. Yes, I agree.
I know.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was trying to remember which Balcones I had that was interesting. I believe it was a tequila finish or something extremely random like that, where I'd never experienced anything like that. And just the taste of Texas whiskey itself was still so new to me, even though I'd gone all the way to Texas to try stuff. But I'm also well aware that I know at least Crowded Barrel, I know that's MGP that's been in Texas, but all the other places, like I think I went to Garrison Brothers, I went to Andalusia, I went to anything near Austin I tried to hit. I think I hit 7 distilleries in 2 days.
Have you tried any Iron Root? It's absolutely...
I had only one. I've had like their basic, I think it was Hubris. That's the only one I had. And I did a video about it at some point, but that was one where I actually had to go get it. And at the time, the only place I could get a Texas whiskey was if I went to the Total Wine, which is an hour away and in a different state.
I've got a couple of Iron Root, but again, it's absolutely terrific and just an amazing and youthful whiskey. In fact, I've got a couple of Balcones here. I've got the Brimstone behind me on my overspill shelf.
I've heard things about Brimstone. Just the name itself. Here we go. I have a couple of Garrison Brothers samples.
Look at this. What a perfect example this is. This is a Texas single malt. I think I opened this in the channel. There's only one dram out of this bottle you can see. But we had this, not this batch, but we had this in the lineup last night with the Glasgow Whiskey Club. But look at the age statement on the back of this.
Oh, man.
aged at least 15 months in oak.
Just over a year.
1.25 years old. Look at the color of it, and I can tell you that the flavor impact is incredible. I wonder if they're allowed to call it whiskey. We discussed this last night because the Brimstone is labeled the original Texas whiskey in Texas, but here the Brimstone this is an American bottle. The Brimstone is labeled the original Texas Spirit. You might spot the label change here. They have to put here, and I wonder if that's EU regulations. The original Texas Spirit.
It might be. I've heard of, there's always something a little weird that happens when it goes to a different country. I know with Scotch Down Under, I got highlighted there. Like I found out, what was it, Jim Beam? It drops below 40% just because it goes to Australia. That was a weird one.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. He told me that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible. I'll need to work out if this Texas whiskey that I have, this single malt at 15 months, is it legal to call that whiskey in the UK? I don't think it is. We have a EU legislation, and SWA obviously is 3 years. Ireland follows that. England follows that too.
So many rules.
Like what time it's reasonable to go to bed. This is round about when I'd be winding things up at the V pub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 25 to 1 in the morning, so it's just a little after. I don't know how to speak in American time. How would you say 25 to 1? You would say 1. You would say what is 36 minutes after midnight in the US? How would you say that?
It's close to a quarter of, I think some people say. I usually just say the time. I never say it like that.
How do you say it?
I just say 1:36 or 7:36 in this case.
Right, but it's what would you say if it was 36 minutes after midnight?
There's a phrase, I know what you mean, but it's like half, I think they use instead.
Well, we say 1/2 midnight, yes.
Yeah.
12:30.
And then some people say quarter of for like 45 minutes.
Quarter past, 1:45.
Yeah, which always feels weird to me, but I know what they mean. It just feels weird.
Yeah.
But you're certainly you can certainly get to bed if you want to go to bed. I don't want to keep you up past your bedtime.
Well, I've got a whiskey to finish.
Okay,
so
that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. I always want my guests to feel comfortable to leave whenever they want. I don't want to keep anyone past their bedtime ever.
Yeah, I have a little left of my unspoiled, unmessed with. It's actually my Eagle Rare, the last of my Eagle Rare that's now empty.
Nice.
But I very much enjoyed it. I had quite a few whiskies when we were sampling for the cask earlier tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't do very well. We had 5 cask samples that we were all very excited about.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
But in the end, yeah, just 4 of them are just, I mean, they're good whiskies. It's not that they're bad. They're just not good enough.
Yeah, it's not what you were looking for.
No, it's not. There's no rush. There's no time limit on this thing. Nobody's really that desperate. So we need to wait for the good stuff to come along. One of them was good. One of the casks was good. So maybe we'll proceed with that, but I'm not sure.
I hope so.
What Sleep Scotch Down Under is saying.
Yeah, he's good for that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what time it is there. I know it's early probably. And it's tomorrow, so I think.
Yeah, it's lunchtime tomorrow. So he's had a sleep and breakfast. Whatever he's doing. Good to see you, Ken. What did you pour?
I just poured some more Eagle Rare. I was trying to decide on the Scotch, but I realized I had too many, and I don't know which one I want to pour right now. So I have a lot of random stuff. I have Octomore of all things. I always want to say Kilchoman, but Kilholman. Is that what it's actually?
Kilholman. Yeah, Kilholman.
Glendronach 15.
I think Homan, I think, is the easiest way to pronounce it if you don't have the Homan.
Then I have Johnny Walker 200th anniversary celebration blend and Loch Lomond Inchmarin.
Inchmarin, yeah. Yeah, they put CHs in there just to trip you up.
It worked.
Yeah. And you know, like Glenkinchie, Inchmarin.
They have a lot of Glens. That's the easy ones to remember. Just Glen something. Glendronach, Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, or Fiddich.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. I mean, as a country, we have a lot of Glens genuinely, like places. So it makes sense. Gregor is saying there's no rush, but I bet you've already designed the label. No, I have not designed the label at all. If I'm permitted to do a white label and put my own label on there, then yes, there'll be label designing to be done.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, I think so. But it has to be something that everybody wants to kind of open and share, and especially when the community is so spread. So it has to be able to be shipped everywhere or as many places as possible.
Yep.
And have a nice whiskey that we can all kind of get our heads around and enjoy together. So there isn't a rush, Gregor. And how can you design a label when you don't know what the bottle is going to be yet?
Mm-hmm. I know with talking about labels. Oh, that's spicy. It's Bourbonite, who you know. You've actually met them, I believe. It's Sebastian Paul.
Bourbonite.
No, it's Bourbonite.
It's Bourbonite. Yes, yeah. Chad and Sarah have met a couple of times.
They've had a lot of fun with their designs. Like the Nulu I was talking about. It's like Sarah and Chad, but it's done this kind of Dick Tracy almost. But I know this is Frank Miller. This is a comic book I really like. What else? And then I have their. I don't think they did. Oh yeah, this is one of the really special ones. This is one they did for their
a Mash Made in Heaven. Yeah,
their wedding.
Have you met Chad and Sarah in real life?
No, I was planning. Yeah, here's the funny part. I was planning to go to Kentucky at the beginning of last year. So that never happened because the idea I think I was going to go in the spring of last year, and I just nope. Not a thing.
Yeah.
I have 3.
You know how you know that thing, never meet your heroes, where you have this idea that you'd really like to meet somebody, and then it's a letdown when you meet them.
That's the other one's like their faces.
Oh yeah, that looks like an Elijah Craig bottle.
It is. It was their Elijah Craig pick. It actually won in the little lineup I did on Friday. Last Friday. Saturday,
I need to finish this statement because I know a lot of people's going to think I'm just. But no, Chad and Sarah are gorgeous people. They're just lovely, lovely people, and they are, as if it's possible, but it is possible. They are nicer in life. They're lovely. They're just nice people to be around.
As you said, I haven't met them in person, but I know in general on their streams and when I've interacted with them, when they visited, and just in general, just talking to them back and forth via email or message, they've always been kind with their time and willing to help out. Even with the Kentucky thing, I started talking about maybe going this year, and they're like, "All right, here's when we will be available," like almost instantly, within a matter of days.
Yeah, they are great people, and it's one of the things I loved about the Texas thing is, just realizing how cool everyone actually is.
Yeah, it's one of the best things about this is being able to, well, not exactly meet, but being able to be on other people's streams. Everyone's really interested in learning more. Everyone's making different kind of content depending on where they are and what they like doing. In my case, it's mostly just to keep my mental health on the good, just interacting with people at all. But there's other ones who are new, like Whiskey Central. I mean, she's a fairly new channel still, but she is like blowing it out of the park, and she's going to actually take over for you for the break. I mean, that's incredible. And
yeah.
there are other ones like Whiskey Mountains. She does all these. She does all these tastings and stuff outside in these beautiful scenic areas in Utah. I think it's Utah.
Well, and I think we need more of that. The more kind of new original ideas, the more kind of interesting things that comes along to fortify the whole YouTube scene. I can't. I met Whiskey Mountains through Whiskey Central through Shayla. I dropped in on a live stream where the two of them were hanging out together. That was cool. And it's just every week, it's almost like there are more YouTube channels popping up than distilleries, let's be honest. There's just so many. But that's okay, because it's like you say, Brian, as long as everyone will find their own audience, everyone will.
Yeah, I have to say one thing real quick. Hi, Mom. Thanks for letting everyone know about the thumbs.
Hi, Brian's mum. How are you? Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Nice to have you in.
Nice to digitally have you join us.
Yeah. Don't forget thumbs. Yes. I've clicked. My thumb is blue. I clicked a like.
The thumb has been thumbed.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about what Shayla's gonna bring over the summer. That's amazing that she would kind of, even be thinking along those lines, just to kind of step up and keep that going. That's really good.
It's a huge responsibility.
No, I don't think so, because Shayla's already kind of carved out her own style. People know what to expect. It doesn't need to be, the VPub style format construct. It doesn't need to be any of that. She can do what she likes with it. But just the fact that she's doing what you're doing right now, Brian, just giving people a space, an optional door to walk through, a wee seat to sit in if the mood takes us,
a reason to drink early. I mean, what?
Yeah, I mean, well, some people's early is somebody else's late.
Yeah, that's
the great thing about this whole thing is it's optional. It's always optional. It's wonderful. I'm very, very grateful to have it. I'm grateful to have you as part of it as well. And yeah, everybody just
thank you. I'm gonna blush.
But everybody's doing it for different reasons. Everybody's doing it in a different style, bringing different things, and it all finds its even keel, doesn't it? It all finds its.
I'm trying to be careful with it at the moment, because although the goal in general, I mean, for any whiskey tube channel who's actually trying to make content and do things, they get to 1,000, get monetized, and suddenly the super chats are available and all that kind of fun stuff. And in my case, it's more of a, somehow make income thing. That was eventually when I was like, oh, I could do this and make money. Ugh, how? Oh, I have to meet these goals. Oh, okay. Yeah. But that wasn't the initial reason for any of it. But now where it's one of those options I could have, that's exciting. But I also have to be very aware of my own mental well-being and how you don't want to compete with people. You don't want to have that feeling of, they're doing better than me. Oh God, I'm not getting as many views. All that kind of stuff will build. So I'm being very cautious to take it slow and enjoy these moments. Like enjoy the smaller stream. Well, this isn't exactly a smaller stream. This has been quite a few people more than I'm used to. But in general, kind of enjoy the way things are progressing as they progress, rather than trying to get to that 1,000 instantly sort of thing.
Well, I think that's right. And what you have to do is find some pragmatism, because I come up with topics for a VPub that I think is going to be really interesting, and they are really interesting, but only to me. And they don't always do as well as I expect, and it's so you have to say, okay. And everything that you're making inside YouTube has a certain evergreen element to it. It's going to be there for posterity, for people to watch going forward. So you just whatever will be, and as long as you enjoy it, as long as you don't put unreasonable expectations or burdens on yourself, just continue to find these wee peaceful pockets of time to hang out with other people who are way, way, way far away from you, but happy to have a wee dram and just drink along with you at a distance. I think it's a pleasure and a privilege.
It is. It really is. I mean, even with we mentioned Scotch Down Under earlier, he started doing a stream on Saturdays, like every other Saturday, because we all found out, a bunch of us found out we all really love Star Trek. So suddenly we're like, well, why don't we just combine the whiskey and the Star Trek together? And all these people from all over the globe, combine for this one moment every couple of weeks, just to enjoy each other's company and talk about whiskey and also Star Trek, which are two things I love quite a bit. I mean, I have an Enterprise right over there.
I spotted it there. I saw it's flying into the scene earlier on. Yeah. It's Donald Pass Whiskey is saying that Shayla, Ken was saying Whiskey Family. Ken, it does often feel like that. Shayla is a really great anomaly. She's a big following in the UK and the European Scotch community and the US bourbon community. Her friendly enthusiasm is infectious. And I think that's what it is, that she's come in and she's not only kind of, it's a bi-directional thing with Shayla. So what she's participating in the chat as part of the community, and she's putting content out there as well, and she's super engaged and enthusiastic, and she's a student and she's learning really hard too. She's found herself in a position that she can accommodate and cater to all of those things, and she's gentle and she's doing very, very well.
She was actually my first guest, like when I even started doing mystery guests.
Is that right, Sheila?
Yeah, it took a little organizing just to try to get things, like any other guest thing. You're gonna have to be like, all right, this, then, when, okay, that kind of thing. And it just so happened that she was the first one to come along and be like, okay, I can do that.
Do you know, but you have to make it happen, Brian, that the only way that you can have a slot on the Brian Calavi KillCo guest mystery guest slot is to be invited.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing to do, is just say like, hey, can you come to my channel?
But you have to kind of grow this idea that everybody's really going to want to be there. They want to be hanging out with you for an evening. And
I just love having people not know, and then me knowing. That's a little bit of it. It's like, I know exactly who it is. Nobody else does.
I get that completely. I get it. I do get it completely.
And it is a draw. Like, people love a mystery. People want to be there for like, okay, who is it?
Yeah, who's it going to be? That's it's a kind of a cool thing. The Brian Calavi mystery guest thing. Something, and you can build on it over time. But is that I'm spent? So when it's a big deal, when it's a big thing in the future, and everybody's turning up to see who the mystery guest is.
Oh God,
I've already spent my opportunity.
Yeah,
I came along in summer 2021.
I think you're the fourth one so far. If I'm trying to keep track of the fourth. Yeah, fourth.
Well, Chad and Sarah are two. They're a double act.
That's true. So that's five.
Five, yeah.
And that was actually the first duo. Now that I think about it, they were the first two people at once on the stream. And I think that went really well, actually. It was surprising. And I was so, like, even with you, of course. I mean, it's the same feeling. Like, this massive Whiskey Tube channel is gracious enough to spend a couple hours of me, an hour or more, just to share the moment and just come here, which is, I don't want to say a step back, but I appreciate it. I endlessly appreciate the time you give, not only to your community, but just to come here and have a whiskey with
Brian, me. I don't consider you a small YouTube channel. I don't consider myself a massive YouTube channel. It's interesting that you use that adjective, but I understand that everything's relative. I'm here because I consider you a friend, Brian.
I am going to blush now. Stop.
and well, because you and I we've had a hangout and we've chatted and we've got to know each other behind the scenes, and we've told each other things that perhaps we wouldn't be sharing secretly about what brought us here to this point in time and everything else. And it's nice. I mean, if you say, Roy, I think it would be fun to hang out and do a public live. And I mean, was there any hesitation in my response? No, of course not. We've known each other for a long time, and that's enough. Mm-hmm. We're friends, Brian, and it's only timing that has meant that we've not been in the same space together.
Yeah,
and in the meantime, we enjoy this, right? That's what we do.
Yeah, I do hope to get over there someday. There's a lot I still have to do with passports and such, and I know my biggest concern is the rush that is going to happen once things start to stabilize for travel and being places and doing things.
Well, don't let it be a concern, because it's only going to be a rush for a certain amount of time, and then once people have got over it again and realize that things are returning to normal.
Yeah,
Brian, you're still young. You only just turned 41, so sorry if I'm telling tales out of school by sharing your age with everyone.
No, I don't care. I know
you're going to get over here, and when you come over here, you'll be able to do it at your own pace, your own time, got your own spots. nothing is an anxiety. Nothing is an anxiety. Don't worry about it at all.
Well, I
And
have that typical American feeling. It's like when I go to Scotland or Ireland, just being there is going to somehow change how I feel in general, like just because of a completely different place and the sort of even the air kind of experience, like the whole thing is going to feel different. Where when American, there's a lot of jostling around and tension often.
yeah, well, I mean, I feel the same way when I travel to the States. The America for me is something I was brought up on watching on TV. So when I go to the States, it's a big deal too. Even when I mean, I lived there for a wee while in New
Yeah,
York.
New York.
But it was still every morning was an eye-opening moment for me when I was living there.
I can imagine.
It's a different. Everything is different, but people are people. Yeah, and it's going to be good fun. It's going to be good fun, buddy. I've got one more sip. What should we raise a glass to?
That's a tough question. Hold on.
I don't think it's a tough question. I think it's quite easy. So I'll raise a glass and I'll say, whether we have to continue the remote thing for a wee while longer, whether it's going to be me landing in American soil and you'll be there, or whether it's you landing in Scottish soil and I'll be here. One day soon, we'll be raising a glass together again, won't we?
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
To being together yet far apart, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be grateful for it and healthy and feeling good about the possibilities.
Being fortunate enough to live in a time where this is even possible.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Being glad that we have what we have. Yes, today. Absolutely. Maybe it's the peat and the bourbon mixed together that's making me very happy this evening. I don't care what it is. I'm grateful. Brian, thank you so much for inviting me onto your channel tonight. Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Cheers, sir.
I am looking forward to a day of packing for holiday tomorrow for a family of 5, which is much more complex than you might imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it's probably worse than that.
Yeah. 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 Because they all have different ideas. They all want to take heavy parka jackets to go to a beach holiday and things and pack their own cases with completely inappropriate stuff. Yeah. It'll be good fun. Alice saying to Roy, finding the right cask. Here. We may have done it. I'd like to find more than one. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Fantastic, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we'll do this again someday, either here or in person. That would be kind of amazing.
Absolutely. It has been, buddy. Thank you.
All right. Feel free to drop out. I still got about a minute or two left. And you can either stay in the background, which would be amazing, or I know it's about, it's late. So feel free to go to bed as well. I mean,
if you've got some stuff to do, I'll sit in the background for a wee bit. No problem.
That's mostly just a farewell. Like I tried to land right on the 2-hour mark, and we're just creeping up on it. So I'll pretty much just talk about. I can talk about it while you're here, because again, I just have to kill about 2 minutes.
In that case, absolutely go ahead.
Yeah, it's mostly just I will do more stuff like this in the future. Everyone, mystery guests. I really enjoy it. And I will be streaming again, as I usually do, on Fridays and Sundays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. What I'm going to do, I don't know yet, but I'm sure I have some ideas. And I am starting to stream a little more on Wednesdays, because it just works for some people, and it gives people an excuse to, again, halfway through the week kind of thing, so we can both get on. That's another thing. It's mostly my mental health. Like, halfway through the week, we're almost done. And then Friday into the weekend, and then Sunday into another week. Ugh. But also videos. I make videos and try to get those out on Wednesday at 11 a.m. if you like seeing content. I'm trying to do a little more of that, but really it just depends on how I'm feeling, unfortunately. Thankfully, for the past year or so, I have been feeling great, but I've been able to get content out and been able to meet a bunch of glorious people and get to talk with amazing people and just get to be in this community. I feel I am very lucky in that regard. The timing couldn't have been more appropriate. It's a little crazy if I start to dive too deep into how this happened. and how I ended up doing one of the things that could not have happened in the past. It's like, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I want to work on this thing called the internet and something called YouTube and drink whiskey and talk to people from all over the globe. That's what I want to do when I grow up. Not a thing. Was not a thing. So I find myself being very fortunate, but also somewhat determined that I have to go down this path, not only for my own sake personally, but also as something I enjoy doing and possibly enjoy doing for financial purposes. That would be amazing. But I have to put something in my glass. I just drank all of it. Maybe not. I'll just.
Well, as of 2 hours ago, I am very proud to be a patron of the KillCo whiskey channel.
You son of a gun! I was wondering why you're asking about that. But thank you for that. And again,
listen, if anyone is searching on Patreon for Brian, you need the link, because if you just type in KillCo, you won't find it. You need to type in KillCo Whiskey Musings, as it turns out, or use the link. I needed a link in order to support Brian. But I'm very glad to do it.
The link is definitely below, and I know Richie probably posted it earlier.
I'm gonna pour. I'd finished my dram. You've got me drinking later than I intended, Brian. I'll pour a wee
I always forget. I have to say the little thing at the end.
Yeah, me too. I forgot to. I'll pour a wee drop of this Port Charlotte.
Oh, yeah. All right. As always, everyone, if you watch my videos, live long and prosper. Don't forget to be awesome. And I will see you out there. Cheers, Roy.
Slant you, Brian. All the best, buddy. Cheers.